Good morning, my dear students. Welcome to the second part of the poem The Daffodils, written by William Wordsworth. In my previous class, I taught you about the first and second stanzas. Let us remind the first and second stanza what the poet told about us regarding the golden daffodils or the daffodils. My dear students, yesterday William Wordsworth, our poet, told us that he was wandering lonely like the clouds in the sky, which was floating over the valleys and hills. My dear students, William Wordsworth starts the poem with the fantasies where he compared himself, as I told you, with the clouds which were wandering lonely over the valleys and hills, where the daffodils are also blooming. Beside the lake and beneath the trees, under the trees. And they were also fluttering and dancing with the breeze, with the wind. So he also told us that they were dancing and shining as the stars which were continuously shining in the sky and twinkling in the Milky Way. The wind blew over the daffodils, and with that sweet breeze, the daffodils were also fluttering and dancing happily as the wind had given them the sense of happiness. In the first stanza, the poet also termed the daffodils as golden daffodils. In the second stanza, you see, second stanza, the poet had compared the daffodils with the stars which were shining and twinkling on the Milky Way in the sky. Like shining stars, the daffodils also stretch over the valleys in a never ending line. And the poet all of a sudden saw a huge number of golden daffodils which were tossing, which were moving their heads in a lively manner, like dancing, like live dance. So, this is all about the first and second stanza. Let us start the remaining stanzas of the poem. Here you see the third stanza of the poem. The waves beside the golden daffodils, danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. So here William Wordsworth told that the waves of the water of the river or of the lake, they were beside the golden daffodils. They were also dancing with the wind, but they become failed in the competition of the dancing of golden daffodils and the waves. But you see, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. So, in the competition of dancing, the waves of the river, of the lake, and the dancing of the golden daffodils, they outdid, they become the better dancer as compared to the waves of the lake. So this is a very much interesting and happy situation, as the poet says. Next you see, the poet could not but gaze the poet says that the poet could not, a poet cannot do nothing. A poet can do nothing but be gay, but only he can make himself happy. The poet can make himself happy in such a jocund company. In such a jocund company means in such a cheerful, in such a happy company of the dancing of the waves and the dancing of the golden daffodils. Where the golden daffodils outdid their sparkling waves in glee, where the golden daffodils own themselves in the dancing competition with the waves of the lake. This is a very much jocund company, happy company, as our poet says in this poem. Next, you see, the poet says, I gazed and gazed, but little thought. The poet was gazing and gazing the situation, the dancing of the waves and the dancing of the golden daffodils in the waves, and after observing, after watching the dancing of the golden daffodils and the waves of the river or the lake, the poet, while gazing this situation at that moment, he thought himself, but little thought, little thought. What is the little thought? Come to the mind of the poet, you see. What wealth the show to me had brought. The poet saying himself, the poet says himself that only I am gazing and gazing the situation of the dancing of the waves of the lake and the dancing of the golden daffodils. So in such a situation, what can I do? What can I do? I can do nothing, but only I can make myself happy in such type of situation of the dancing of the daffodils and the dancing of the waves of the lake. So he was gazing and gazing, he was looking and looking, watching and watching. At that moment, little thought comes to the mind of the poet that what wealth the show to me had brought. What wealth, what would be the wealth the show of the daffodils and the waves would bring for the poet? He is thinking. For a moment, this type of thought comes to the mind of the poet. You see the last stanza? For oft, when on my couch I lie, in vacant or in fancied mood, they flash upon that inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude. And then my heart with pleasure fills and dances with the daffodils. For oft, the poet further says that when the poet when the poet was lying when the poet was lying on the bed of the poet in vacant or in pensive mood, The poet says that when the poet lies on his bed in a vacant or in pensive mood or in sad mood, the flash upon that inward eyes, which is the bliss of solitude. Whenever the poet in a vacant or in a sad mood lying on his bed, at that moment the dancing of the golden daffodils and the dancing of the waves of the lake often comes, often flashing upon the inward eye, upon the mind of the poet, which is the bliss of solitude, and which is the bliss, which is the happiness, which is the gift of happiness, of the loneliness of the poet. When the poet lies on his bed in a vacant or in a pensive mood, that means he was thinking nothing and in a sad mood he was lying on the bed. At that moment, the dancing of the daffodils and the dancing of the waves and the outdone of the golden daffodils with the waves of the lake, they were flashing upon the inward eye, means mind, upon the mind of the poet, and which is also the bliss of solitude, which is the gift of happiness, of the loneliness of the poet. And then my heart with pleasure fills and dance with the daffodils. And then the heart of the poet with pleasure fills and dance with the daffodils. Whenever the poet lies on his bed in a vacant or in a sad mood, at that moment the golden daffodils dancing and their outdit of dance as compared to the waves of the river comes to the mind of the poet with a bliss of happiness when the poet in a sad or pensive mood. And then the heart of the poet fills with pleasure, with happiness, and his heart was dancing again with the daffodils. Whenever the poet is in a sad or pensive mood, at the time the thought of the dancing of the golden daffodils and their outdit of the sparkling waves in the dancing competition, this thinking, this situation, this scenario comes to the mind of the poet. They were flashing upon the inward eye of the poet, and at the time this thinking, this scenario removes the sadness, removes the vacant mood or sad mood of the poet, and fills the heart of the poet with pleasure. And then the poet's heart also starts dancing with the golden daffodils. So, my dear students, This is the poetry I've discussed. I've explained you line by line. I hope all of you understand the poetry. And in my next class, as far as possible, I'll discuss the poet critically, or I'll give you the notes of the textual questions of this poetry. Thank you. Bye bye. Have a good day. Stay at home. Be safe.